This is Bishop Samuel Blakes, and you're listening to Real Talk with Mary J.
Happy Merry Monday, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Mary J. I hope you're having a happy Merry Monday today. I am excited to be sharing for this episode. We're talking about love and relationships all through the month of February. And listen, we have a show especially designed for all of you lovers all around the world. We're dealing with the love in the air. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. It's Cupid time. It's Valentine's that is quickly approaching. So we're going to talk about sexual situations on today. And I am so happy to have my guest sharing with me today that is going to come and share with you all from the subject sexual situations. Sexual situations. So listen, we're getting ready to bring him on the screen right now. I want you all to welcome with me on the show today. He is a world traveler, a lover of life, an entrepreneur. He is the man, listen, behind the travel plan. Listen, he travels all over the world and he shares nuggets and wisdom on his page. His content is amazing as it relates to relationship mindset. And listen to this, abstinence. And that's why he's on here today to share with us from the subject of sexual situation. Welcome with me on the show, everybody, this morning, Reggie Cummings. Thank you, Reggie, for coming on and sharing with me on Real Talk with Mary J today.
Hey, Mary, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I look forward to an interesting conversation.
Yes, it's going to be really, really interesting. So I am happy to have you to share with me on today, Reggie. And I know that I ran across your content and it really sparked some interest because I've been talking about this for years now as it relates to mindset and abstinence. And so that kind of, got my attention. So that's why I wanted to reach out to you because I was like, okay, now this is a man that is sharing this from a male perspective, and I wanted to have you on. So before we get right into the subject, would you tell the people all over the world who you are and what you do?
So my name is Reggie Cummings. I am originally from Boston, Mass. I currently am in Atlanta. I'm in the process of moving to Atlanta. I'm moving here because I have a son at Morehouse, a daughter at Spelman.
Awesome.
Atlanta is a Delta hub and will make it easy for me to travel around the world from here. My lovely and beautiful ex-wife is up in Boston, and I'm in a new phase of my life.
That's awesome.
In addition to that, I think what most people know me for is I am the founder of Black Travel Movement. We have nearly a million members, so I have a huge following and fan club. And my personal journey is something that I like to share. I like to talk to brothers specifically, and I talk about a bunch of different things: dating, sexuality, mental health, emotional well-being, emotional intelligence, and I think I have something to share, and the people seem to like it.
Well, yes, they do. And I'm telling you, Reggie, I also like it too because you touched on some subjects that are near and dear to my heart. I share with people all over the world as it relates to mental health and abstinence and relationships as a whole. And so, I scroll through some of your content and some of it is amusing as well. I understand that you are seeing a therapist. Will you talk to us about that? Like, how did you start seeing a therapist? And I love the way you come back and share your nuggets about your therapist, or is it a real therapist?
He's a very real person. When I write about it on my social media, I I title it Conversations with My Therapist.
Right.
He and I have a very interesting working relationship. You know, he the thing that I love about him, and I'm going to talk about therapy in general, but one of the things that I love about him is he never gives me an answer. He kind of steers the conversation in a way that allows me to kind of figure it out for myself, or
Yes.
see a perspective that applies to me. And let me start by saying this. For a long time, therapy has had a bad rap in our community. You know, there's a stigma attached. You go to therapy,
Right.
something wrong with you? Are you crazy? Absolutely
That's
not.
right.
Um, you know, we all have suffered intentional and unintentional traumas. I mean, the experiences of your life, they impact you emotionally, psychologically, and if they go unchecked, you know, these things could have a very detrimental effect on your emotional intelligence, how you connect and relate to other people, how you deal with the world, how you solve and deal with problems. So I am a huge fan of therapy, and I think it's time to normalize it, particularly for
Right.
Black men. It's time to remove
Absolutely.
the stigma, and it's time for us as a community, as a people, as a culture to embrace it because it has been nothing but beneficial to me. I wanted to tell you about how my journey to therapy began. Um, I am, well, recently divorced, a little more than 2 years. I often say that my ex-wife and I have the best divorce of any people on the planet. Um, we don't have any drama. We love each other. We're best friends. We're co-parents. We just couldn't be married. And once we were able to address our issues, and you know, marriage counseling and therapy helped us get to a point where we could have this wonderful uh, post-marriage relationship. But in going through that process, I realized that there is really some benefit to going to therapy and to addressing your emotional and mental health issues. I am by no means crazy. You know, I just love having someone who has been professionally trained to help me to
That's right.
understand a perspective that I didn't previously have. And it has been nothing but beneficial. And so through the process, one of the things that I learned was that sharing my journey, sharing my stories, sharing my conversations with my therapist has been cathartic for me. Like it really helps me to be transparent, to be honest about my situation, to be honest about how I process things, how I deal with people, how I connect with people, and it's been nothing but a benefit. And I'll tell you, you know, a lot of people don't have the courage to say a whole bunch of things out loud to the general public. But I
Right.
get so many messages and inboxes just saying, hey, man, I congratulate you for this. I appreciate you. It has inspired me to kind of address some of my issues. And I say, if I could help one person, if sharing my journey helps one person, and it has helped way more than one, you know, it's all worth it. To be able to do something that benefits both me, the community, the culture, and us as a people is only a blessing. A friend of mine told me that, Reggie, you were chosen to do this. I said, well, he should have chosen somebody else. I don't want to go through all these struggles, but I'm happy to be in the position that I am. I am the best version of me that I've ever been. And
That's
you know,
awesome.
like everyone, we all have struggles, and you know, we might call it different things or struggle with different challenges, but you know, we're all human. We all have to kind of face the challenges that life puts before us, and sometimes it helps to get a little help,
That's right. And
and
that
that's
is
the way I look
so
at it.
good. It sometimes it helps to get a little help, and just your journey as relates to understanding mindset and processing it all and being
Yeah.
able to express yourself, you know, and dig deeper within of things that you probably never saw before, you know, because
Yeah.
it resonates with me in such a way, Reggie, because I too went through a divorce, and that's what landed me in therapy,
Yeah.
actually, going through the divorce and just trying to figure out life's journey along the way and why I am at the point in the place where I am today. And so what really stood out with me, with your story, is just seeing how a Black man would be able to just identify these things and relate it to the public, listening audience to hear this. And so that is so important, because so many men struggle. And you're right, as relates to our African American community, so many of us, it has been that stigma of going to a therapist and being ashamed or being embarrassed and not wanting to be labeled. But we know now, in today's time, mental health has always been a real issue in the Black community, but it has gone unaddressed for so many years. So I am so happy to have you sharing just your message as it relates to being healthy, healed, and whole, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, from every aspect of life. So it's like I said, and I listen, I watch your content, I view it from time to time, especially when I'm having guests on the show. I will go through their content just to see what their substance is. And you bring a lot of substance. You bring a lot of value. And it's amusing when I see the post. And I never met you, but I can almost hear the conversation that you're having with your therapist in your voice and in the therapist's voice,
Yeah.
And when
He challenges me a lot.
Yeah, when you said, I think I forget one in particular that I'm really trying to target in on. It was about you. He's saying that you funny or something. Can you bring that to light? When you said, "Oh, you're funny," when you said "doc," and he said, first of all, about
my
a
therapist is not a doctor. He doesn't have the title of doctor. So,
right.
but I call him doc because I'm like, if you're treating me, you got to be a doctor. So she said, I said, he said, I'm not a doctor. I said, well, Dr. J doesn't get mad when I call him doctor. And he's not a real doctor. He says, you think you're funny? I was like, I think I'm hilarious. And I'll tell you another thing, for those who choose to go down this path or take this journey, the therapist I have now is not the first one I had. Like, you have to kind of, I call it, date your therapist. Sit with him a couple times, find out if he's the right person. Like, you're not going to marry the first person you're going to date with. You got to try them out and make sure that you're comfortable. You guys connect, because it's really important, because in some ways it's like talking to a friend. And we put boundaries around the conversation. He is the therapist and I am the quote unquote patient, but it really helps to find someone that you mesh with, or your energy, your exchange, your communication. And we keep it lighthearted. We keep it really serious. I post anecdotes and high level notes about our conversations, but sometimes we go really, really deep into things, and that's kind of what you need. One of the things that I have often said, and it goes back to what you said about Black men, is that society does not give Black men the capacity to express the full range of their emotions. So, and I'll give you a perfect, it starts really young. When a little Black boy cries, you hear parents and adults saying things like, stop that crying before I give you something to cry about. Like, I have to stop crying. Like, the first message you're sending to kids at 4 and 5 years old is suppress your emotions.
That's right.
Like, do you know how unhealthy that is? And then, so it begins at an early age and it continues through life, that society, culture, our family, our social networks, they don't give us the capacity to express the full range of our emotions. And then, we express anger, we get labeled as a problem child or a thug or a hood or whatever. When we express compassion, you're being soft. And what I've decided to do for myself, and once I understood what emotional intelligence was, how my emotions helped me to connect react, relate, respond. I decided to take charge of my emotions. I don't really care what anyone else thinks about how I express my emotions. So I'm transparent. I say I'm sad if I'm sad. I say I'm happy if I'm happy. If something troubles or bothers me, I approach it with the full range of whatever emotion I'm feeling, but I control it. You know what I mean? I don't let myself get out of control or, fly off the handle, because I have emotional intelligence. I am intentional about my emotions and how I express myself and how I allow things to impact me. I know you're probably wanting to get into the sexual subject, which is why we're here. So I'm going to tell a little bit about how I got to that place in my life.
Yeah, definitely. That's why we're here, but it's also mindset, because I understood that it was due to all of the challenges, circumstances that has brought us to where we are. And it's all about changing our mind and refocusing our mindset. I've understand that there's a lot of things in life too, as it relates to our paradigm shift, a lot of things that we have to unlearn. There's a lot of barriers and things that we have to tear down, and some things we have to undo and unlearn. So especially as it relates to your mental health, as well as your sexuality and the wholesomeness, that how you bring the two together as it relates to sexual abstinence and mental health. What really was something that I saw on your post. I know you travel all over the globe. You have what's the name of it again?
Black Travel Movement.
Black Travel Movement. Black Travel Movement. That's right. And you posted a picture of you skydiving.
Mm-hmm.
And you also said, "This is me in Aspen, abstinent." Right?
Yeah. Abstinent and abstinent. Yeah. I was skiing. It goes to this. I think that mental and emotional health is a lifelong journey. You are always trying to do the best to both put yourself in a position to be emotionally and psychologically strong and healthy. And a part of that journey is the kinds of decisions you make and how you allow things to affect you. And on the subject of sex, it can be a huge distraction to what you're trying to accomplish, the space you're trying to be in. Of course, everyone loves sex. It feels great. It's wonderful. I have no problem with it. But sometimes it is important for us to sacrifice or put some things aside in order to focus on a bigger picture, a goal, or just not to be distracted.
Right.
When I talk about sex, and I've had conversations with both men and women, one of the messages that I'm constantly preaching to them is there is no such thing as casual sex.
That's
because
right.
When you engage in that manner with someone, you are literally putting your life into their life, your body into their body, or you're receiving somebody else's body, but you're also receiving their energy, their spirit. And some people don't give this stuff a lot of credence, but for me, energy is really big. And so can you imagine connecting with someone who has negative energy, and you're pouring that energy, that negative energy into your energy? It's corrupting. It's distracting. I think a lot of times we get into situations where we really don't realize the seriousness of sex, because it's become so casual these days. People can easily hook up or lay down with someone, but that stuff really affects you. It affects your emotional well-being. It can affect your psychology if it's not being done in healthy ways. And so for me, my decision to become abstinent was based on a couple of factors. Having been recently divorced, I decided that, okay, I know through my counseling and my therapy that I have a pattern. And my pattern was get a girlfriend, break up with her, get another girlfriend. Break up with her, get another girlfriend. Get a wife, get divorced, get another girlfriend. And I really wanted to stop a bad habit. So I decided that number one, I wasn't going to date, and number two, that I was not that I was going to be abstinent, because I really I valued the journey that I was on for emotional and psychological well-being, and I knew or suspected that for me to get involved sexually with someone would really be a distraction, would really take away from what I was trying to do. And of course, it was a challenge. Depriving yourself of a pleasure or something that you enjoy, it's hard. But it gets easier as the days, weeks, and months go by. I think that people have to make a decision that's best for them. But I so often see people making decisions that are not in their best interest, and it confuses me. And choosing to engage sexually with someone just on a casual level or in a way that doesn't have meaning just didn't seem to be a smart decision for me at the time. So I made the choice to be abstinent, and then COVID happened, and it became easier. But
Reggie, stop right there for a moment. I want to pause right there, because I want our audience to really be in tune with, you just said a whole lot.
yeah.
And it was really, really deep and spiritual as well as mental. And people just have to really hear this, because something that I understand as well is spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
But even as myself, I practice abstinence as well. And a lot of times I hear the spiritual aspect of abstinence, which a lot of people shun a great deal, because that was not, and I am a pastor, I am an ordained minister, but that was not my reason to abstain. And so I want the people to hear this, because a lot of times we always believe that it has to be, which it is spiritual, and that there's a spiritual connect there. Yeah. But it's also a mindset.
Absolutely.
It's a mindset. And a lot of times people just don't get it, because for me, coming from me, a lot of times one may think that, okay, you're trying to project your spirituality on me or your religion or what have you. But this, for some, it is spiritual, and that's why they don't do it, right? Because of what their beliefs are. But for me, it wasn't even about my belief. It was about just having a mindset to change my life and to want the best for me, and to make conscious and quality decisions for my life. And it sounds like that's where you are as well.
That is how I arrived at the decision, and that's how I've been able to continue in it. It's very complex, but it's simple at the same time. I just found that, you have to know yourself. And I believe that people do. They know what their issues are. They know what their struggles are. They know what their challenges are. And a lot of times and both men and women, we use sex as a substitute for love. We use sex as, a drug to cure your pain. When I say pain, it's like you're suffering emotional pain, loneliness. Like it's easy we've made it easy to delude ourselves into thinking that just because I'm having sex with someone, or I have an orgasm, or I feel good, these temporary highs, they're like taking caffeine or sugar high, but you come crashing down after them. And a lot of people, they just make decisions that aren't in their best interest. So to be able to understand and have the intelligence to make a rational, intelligent, smart decision about your sexuality, and it doesn't have to be for a year or long term. Just, you can say, I'm going to take a break for a month, 6 months, and whatever your time is. But once you start noticing the benefit of that, once you
Yes,
start um,
absolutely.
understanding the value that your sexuality has, you're not just going to cheaply distribute it to to the first person who pays you attention or thinks you're cute.
Right.
And I have two daughters, and I try to teach them lessons about valuing themselves and valuing their bodies and valuing their spirit, mind, heart, all of it. And but part of that is you have to value your own stuff. Like my spirit is important to me. My energy is important to me. My peace is important to me. And sex is amazing and wonderful. But for a minute, I needed to take a step back so I could focus on maintaining and strengthening those things. So now I'm a better person. Like I'm a better person to connect with. I'm a better lover when I choose to be a lover, simply because I took the time to make that sacrifice for the benefit of my emotional, psychological, and spiritual well-being.
Now, do you have other people with like mind and kindred spirits as yourself? Or
Absolutely,
do you find
absolutely.
absolutely?
And I wrote about this yesterday. Um, the range of responses to some of my conversations, the overwhelming majority of them are supportive. But you get one or two people, and the ones that stand out to most to me are the toxic male responses. Oh, you're a simp, or you're a whatever terminology or derogatory terms they want to use. You're soft. You're a simp. I'm like, well, I'm doing something that works for me, and another man's opinion of it is just his opinion. Um, but the overwhelming majority of the folks that I engage with, they are positive, they are encouraging, they love it. Um, a lot of folks, as I mentioned earlier, connect with me to talk about how to get them started. I give them resources for how to
That's right.
find a therapist. Um, I had a conversation last night for a whole hour with a sister who was sharing with me that she's on year 6 of her abstinence. I was like, 6 years? But she said that she needed to do that for her. And,
Here, here.
everybody has to do what they need to do for themselves. And,
Yes.
the other thing is, I don't want to force my spirituality on anyone. And I often say that religion is you believing somebody else's relationship with God.
That's
Spirituality is having
that,
your own relationship. So
exactly.
you
Exactly.
have to you have to factor in your faith, your beliefs, what you believe about God, what you believe about the universe and energy and spirituality into the decisions you make. And religion will have you thinking that you're a hussy, or you're doing something bad. But I often tell people, talk to God, just you and God. Don't worry about what the pastor said, what the
Right.
bishop said, what the nun said. Just talk to God. Be honest with him, and he'll be honest with you. Embrace your spirituality as part of every journey that you're on, including a journey to abstinence, or if you decide to be sexually active, add your value system, add your spirituality into that, and it'll be whole, it'll be wholesome, it'll be healthy, and it'll be
Right.
wonderful.
Now, Reggie, what are some of the processes that you had to go through to get to this point of where you are?
You know, I'm going to say a few things. The first thing is you have to make a decision. Like, I made a conscious decision to make my self-care, my emotional well-being, my psychological well-being a priority. Like, you have to decide, I got to stop this madness. I need to take control of my life. You have to make a decision, first of all.
Right.
Um, but then once you realize that you need to change, or you need to refocus, um, you have to be intentional about how you move, the choices
Yes,
you make. So
that's good.
for me, asking the question, making the decision, and then being intentional and purposeful about my steps going forward. Um, you know, I often say if you do something frequently enough, it becomes a habit. Or if you stop doing something, you can drop a habit. So you know what your bad habits are. You know what
Right.
the good habits are you need to incorporate into your life. And I intentionally made choices to do some of the healthy things, like going to see my therapist, and we do it on Zoom a lot. So seeing my therapist once a week it became a habit. So if on any given Tuesday I didn't do it, I'd be like, oh wait a minute, I forgot to do something today. Let me connect with my guy. Um, Making sacrifices and understanding why you're making the sacrifice, because I love sex, love it more as much as anything. And I knew that in choosing to abstain from that, I am making a sacrifice. And knowing why you're making a sacrifice makes it important so that it doesn't feel like you're depriving yourself.
That's
Like, I'm not doing this because in the end, in the long run, this will benefit me. And it will be a greater benefit than that temporary high I get from engaging in sex. Um, having
what benefits have you seen or have you noticed since you've been abstinent?
um, the first thing I would say is clarity. you know,
Yeah,
um, your brain and the way it interacts with your heart, it's complex, and some things can, bad energy, bad family relationships, bad marriages. There are a lot of things that can create a fog in your mind. I think that abstinence helps to clarify things for you. It
right.
really gives you, it's like a light bulb goes off, and like all of a sudden you're like, you're seeing things from a clearer perspective, especially once you get past a certain point. For me, that point was about 60 days. I felt clear about it. And I also felt that, not having to go through the motions or the process of making a decision on who to sleep with, what's this relationship look like? If I'm married, that's one thing. But when you're not married, especially when you're in a divorce, who do you lie down with? And what does this really mean? Are we doing this for the night,
Right.
or do we hook up? So just not having that confusion, not having to make those kinds of choices, it all kind of works together to make this a positive experience. But the clarity thing was really big for me.
Yeah, that's good. That's a huge one. Huge
Yeah.
one. And a lot of times we don't understand just the mental clarity that we receive when we abstain. We make a lot of decisions in it, like you said in the beginning, it becomes so foggy
Yeah.
with just your judgment,
Yeah.
and many times, and from a woman's perspective, as it relates to women, many times when we're in relationships and we are sexually active in that relationship, we begin to settle for
Yeah.
things and tolerate things and accept things that normally we wouldn't accept.
Yeah.
We wouldn't tolerate. We wouldn't just let happen if you were clear-headed, if you
Right.
if you just had
Exactly. Yeah.
your mind, if you understood what was
Yeah.
happening, from every level, spiritual, as you said, all of the energy and everything that is entangled in that. A lot of times when we come out of these relationships and we go back and we look back at them and we was like, wow,
What was I thinking?
what was I thinking? How
You
did I
weren't
do
thinking,
that?
you
Why
were
did I
you were having
settle?
orgasms.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's more to it than just a feel good. It's
Yeah.
more to it because life happens after that. You still have to get up and do some things. You have to live, you have to walk with integrity. There's a whole lot that you have to conquer in the world. And now you got all of this stuff that's on your mind, and it clouds your judgment. And so mental clarity is definitely huge. And it also gives you a sense of empowerment to be able to discipline and have charge over your own body, not to important. Just succumb to every feeling, every emotion, every thought. It gives you power over your own body, not control to use your body to say, nah, I'm holding this from you. You can't, but to just be empowered, to know that, a lot of times we think that we're strong in different areas, but we have to know where we are and understand who we are before we really allow somebody else to interact with us and come into our space, in such a way. So this is wonderful. I had a man tell me years ago, he said, Mary J, he said, not too many women are doing what you're doing and talking about these things. And I don't know any women like that. And I was like, really? Well, I'm not sure what type of women that you've been engaging, but there are a lot of women that I know that have this stance as well. And there's some men that I know that have this stance as well, but not as many men. But I was so glad when I came across your content to see that you were one that was taking a stance as relates to mental health and sexuality as well.
Absolutely. One of the other things that I just want to add, of course, I have a responsibility to myself, but the thing that was also a factor for me is, what am I doing to the other person? Like, what kind of negative impact am I like, if I lie down with you and then, like, I don't love you or I don't get in a relationship with you, am I making you feel used? If I, what expectation are you creating in your mind from the fact that you and I decided to lie down? And if it doesn't go your way, am I the bad guy? Did I put you in a spot that you didn't really want to be in? And so I don't want that karma. I don't want that negative energy on me right now. So, that also is a big part of some of the things that men struggle with. And, to be able to walk away from a situation having damaged or hurt someone in that way, for it not to be part of the conversation, is a big benefit for me.
Right. What do you say to someone that have the mindset, just as you just stated, that, oh, I can handle it and I'm not expecting anything after this? It's, it's just two adults that's having consensual sex, and there's no more to them than that. What do you say to, especially to a woman that has that mindset? Because a lot of times they think that this is just something that I can handle for the moment, and I know that he's not getting attached. I know he said that he doesn't want a relationship, and I'm cool with that. What are your thoughts as it relates to that?
So here's what I would say. You have a set of emotions. You can embrace them or you can detach from them. So
absolutely,
the healthy approach is to embrace your emotions, and let them make you the best person you can be. The ability to be able to detach from your emotional self for a physical pleasure it's dangerous and it's sad. So I would say, can you be honest with yourself about, are you embracing your emotion or are you detaching from it? And if you can detach from your emotional self in exchange for physical pleasure, no one thinks that's good. You need to, you need to get help. You need to talk to someone. You need to talk to yourself and love yourself more than you love that physical feeling.
Right. Absolutely. To love yourself more than the feeling, than the act of it.
Right.
itself, to just be inclined to who you are, the whole you, the total you, not just the
Yeah.
physical you, but
Yeah.
all of you, to be inclined to who you are and to love yourself deeper than that, deeper than those emotions and those feelings. So I'm so glad that you brought that forward, Reggie, and it's really, really good to have a community of people that have the same values and standards,
Yeah.
because
It is.
otherwise it's like a revolving door, over and over and over again, getting in and out of situations. I call them situationships, not relationships.
Yeah.
Situationships. And so that's why we're talking about sexual situations on today, because I know that so many just they really are not at that place. And I empower women. I am the founder and CEO of Women of Treasure. And I have women from all walks of life all around the world that are inboxing me, that are asking me questions, that are dealing with heartbreak, dealing with soul ties, dealing with emotional trauma. And a lot of times it has to do with our past, our history, where we come from, the
Mhm.
things that we have succumbed to, some things that have that we've just experienced in life, that has brought us to a place of searching and searching, but not searching self. And so as it relates to getting therapy, going to a therapist and being able to share with the therapist. I know when I went to my therapist, in the beginning of it, I talk about this all the time. I was not really ready to open up.
Yeah.
I'm a very private person. I live a very private life. I don't share as much. The things that I share on social media is what I want to share on social media. I've written a book entitled Intrigue, and that book opened up some other areas. It dealt with the personal, the professional, and the private side of your total being. And it brought out some things as it relates to sexuality, that's very controversial too. But I knew that it would help people to develop healthy relationships, just as yourself, and traveling and sharing your mindset. You say something that is so funny to me, as it relates to sharing and relationships. You talk about tacos a lot, Reggie. What is going on with Taco Tuesday?
Tacos are my love language. I just love tacos. They're the perfect food. You could put anything in a taco. You can hold it with your hand. You don't need a whole bunch of dishes. They're just the perfect food. And it's become I was kind of obsessed with them. But yeah, I love tacos. They're my
It's
love
so
language.
funny.
They're my food of choice. I just love them.
So what are your love languages out
It's
of the five?
interesting. I read a lot, and of course I've read the book about love languages. Here's what I have often said. Um, I think in a ideal relationship, you are engaging all five of the love languages.
Mhm.
You know, physical touch, some people, quality time, gifts. You, you have to have what I call a harmony between all of those languages to have an ideal relationship. Um,
Right.
I personally like physical touch, which is, why a choice to be abstinent was a challenge for me. But I'll tell you the other thing. I actually have a love language that's not in the five that are mentioned in the book. I think thoughtfulness is my love language. I like
What
to
is it?
be thoughtfulness,
Thoughtfulness?
just caring about how you impact someone, how what you do and say makes them feel, and I love thoughtfulness, and I
I
like
think
it.
that I think that goes under acts of kindness or acts of service.
It could. That's one way to look at it. I just like the word thoughtfulness. Yeah, I look at
Yeah,
acts of services and hey, I made you a sandwich. But yeah, I think you have to have a harmony or a blend of all of them, and just be thoughtful. And if you practice thoughtfulness towards your partner
hmm,
or your person, you're going to engage all five of the love languages.
I agree. I totally agree as well. Thoughtfulness is a good one, and that's actually my top love language: acts of
Yeah.
service. is one of my, and you know what I figured out? I come to realize that when we think about the love languages, and this is just my own assessment, your love language is usually what you love giving the most.
Right.
And whatever it is that you love giving is usually what you love to receive, because we oftentimes give away what we want.
Yeah.
And that's how you can really tap into your love language. But here's what I come to also discover: we always hear the saying, the phrase, treat others the way you want to be treated. But I've
Absolutely.
come to discover, treat others the way they want to be treated. That's my thing, because the way I want to be treated may not be the way you want to be
That's
treated.
good.
And so I have to treat you the way that you want to be treated, because, the way that I want to be treated, I might not agree with that.
Yeah.
There may be some things that I just don't want, some things that I just don't want to do. There may be some things that I just want to accept. And so, it goes deeper, and it can be as simple as, I'm gonna give you an example. I am the type of person that if something had to happen to me, whether I'm sick or injured or in the hospital or any of that, I'm not going to post that on social media. That's my own personal preference. I don't want anybody to see me in that state. I don't want to be lying down in a bed connected to all of this machinery and in a gown and in bed and looking sickly. I'm not going to post that, right? I'm not going to show that. And I may not even want you to come and visit me unless we're really, really close and you're in my immediate circle. Now, for someone else, they may feel like, well, Mary J, you didn't even come see me in the hospital. I wish you had come. I wish you had been there, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't know, because I would not have wanted that person there for me. So we have to
That's a
treat
good
people.
example. I get it.
Yeah. Treat people the way that they want to be treated, not the way that you want to be treated, because it may be a different feeling for someone else. So thoughtfulness is great. I like that word as well, thoughtfulness. And it relates for me to acts of service, which is my top love language as well. And so moving forward, Reggie, what can you say to those persons who are trying to get to this place, that are dealing with so much emotional trauma, that may be dealing with some relationships and they're not sure where they're going with it, if they want to remain in it? A lot of times they deal with toxic relationships. I had a lady inbox me about a year ago, I believe it was, and no, it wasn't that long, maybe about 6 months ago, and she asked me, how does she deal with toxic relationships? And I told her, I do not deal with toxic
Right.
relationships.
Here's what I will offer. You have to love yourself, number one.
Right.
And in loving yourself, you have to make decisions that are in your best interest. Whenever I see someone making a decision that's not in their best interest, like I see women tolerating things that I would never want my daughter to tolerate, I say to myself, she loves that person more than she loves herself, because she's willing to tolerate a level of pain to please him or to keep him. You have to love yourself, number one. And then you have to make decisions that are in your best interest. And the decision to sit down with someone, get some counseling, there are a bunch of resources, and I can share them with you. You can share them with your audience. You have to want to be in a better space, be of a healthier mind. You have to want it for yourself, because no one's going to choose to make you go to therapy unless you're, a lunatic in the street. But you have to make choices that are in your best interest. And I often say to people, is that in your best interest? I don't make choices that are not in my best interest ever. Like, why would I do that?
Right.
So, love yourself, make choices that are in your best interest. And there are resources everywhere to help you if you want to, and then, you know, just be intentional about it. Put
To be
yourself
intentional.
first.
That's right. To
Put
be
yourself first.
intentional and to put yourself first.
Right.
Absolutely. I say that all the time. I have daughters as well. I have a 37-year-old, and my youngest daughter is 20.
Mhm.
And I say that all the time. If you put yourself first and begin to love you first,
Yeah.
love you first, because you can't give away something to somebody else that you don't
Right.
have. You
Yeah.
have to love yourself and value yourself first before you can even implement that or want to try to give away that to someone else, that you will find yourself in that space. You have to be able to understand who you are first and what you want. I had a post that popped up on my feed just recently, and I said, ladies, stop trying to have a person to fit in your world and make them think that they're the one when they don't know who they are in their own. They
Exactly.
don't even know who they are in their world alone, just to take care of them and themselves. And a lot of times we feel that we have to be joined or connected to someone to feel significant, to feel whole, to feel like, I am a person of value. I see that with both men and women. Both men and women. Oftentimes I see that, but never see or hear about any one individual taking time out to actually date themselves and to be with
Oh
themselves by
yeah.
themselves. So, and enjoy their own company. I enjoy Mary J. I
That's
enjoy my
good.
own company.
That's really good.
I have a good time by myself, and I'm okay with being okay. And a lot of times we see that society has shaped and formed us to be someone that needs to be out there in the limelight or sharing with someone else. Your biggest cheerleader is yourself. Don't you
Yeah,
agree? I know you agree,
absolutely.
Reggie.
Well, of course, yeah,
I
absolutely.
know you agree with that.
Yeah. Well, that's. But you know, the other thing is, and you mentioned it earlier today, and I talk about it a lot, is like some of the things we've learned are wrong. Like you need to
Mm,
unlearn some of that thinking, some of those behaviors, some of the stuff
yeah.
you thought. You need to unlearn that, and
Unlearn. Right.
yeah.
There's a
So
lot of things that I had to just unlearn. A lot of
yeah,
paradigm shifts that I just had to tear down. A lot of
walk away from
generational
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, you got to walk
A lot
away
of
from stuff,
religious stuff.
and
Even
sometimes you got
that.
to get rid of some people.
That's
You
right.
got to cut some people off. Like I can't have your energy near me. Like that negative, toxic. I don't have time for that.
Right. Well, Reggie, I am so happy to have you to share with us on today. You brought so much value to the show and to all of our listening audience that are hearing you. It was just so refreshing to get it from a male perspective. I did a show some years ago. I usually center my show around men during the month
Mhm.
of June because
Okay.
I say we don't often give a platform for men to share. We talk about women issues and women empowerment. We have Mother's Day in May, and we give a whole lot to women. And so in June is a time that I focus in on men. And I had a show, the strong man, the camouflage man, the gentleman, all of that as it relates to sharing from a male perspective what it is that men, how men think. The caveman, I had that episode too, the caveman, one that goes into his cave and just keep everything harbored on the inside and not
Yeah.
share that. So you're one of the strong black men, and I should say I go even further, not just a strong black man, but a strong man that is sharing a wealth of knowledge and information as it relates to mental health, healing, happiness, and wholeness, to deal with the total man from every aspect of life. So thank you so much for sharing on the show with us today. I'm elated to have you, and I'm definitely going to bring you back at some point. I know that I will have you to come back on the show just to share with us a little bit further as it relates to just manhood, just
It's
manhood.
been my pleasure, Mary. I really enjoyed this. I like talking and giving people inspiration, understanding, guidance. So whenever you want to have me back, I'd be happy to join you.
Thank you for coming on, Reggie. Did you have a happy Merry Monday?
I did. Merry Monday. Thank you very much.
Happy Merry Monday, everybody.
I'll be following you.